Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you coming out to the Taney County Republicans, our bi-monthly meeting, bi-weekly meeting. This is the third Friday of the month, the 20th, here at Golden Corral in Branson, Missouri. Got an exciting little program today. First, we got some announcements to be made by one of our locals and member of the Republican Club here. And before that, though, we're going to start. Julie, would you mind saying a prayer for us today?
Sure. We're going to stand up for the pledge, so let's just stand up and pray and then we'll be ready. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this gathering of people that would care about the government, and Lord, we want it to be your government. We want it in your hands, and we want you to guide it. Just let us be the hands and the feet that help take our country where we need it to be, back to you, Lord. Thank you for all the blessings you give us, and thank you for the food we are partaking of. Amen.
Amen. And then, Ira, would you mind leading this pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, folks. You guys may be seated. We appreciate it. So today, our main portion of our meeting is going to be you. It's going to be us as Republicans. You know, we have a situation going on in Washington, which I'll update you in a minute, so we can go ahead and let our guests speak real quick. Seems like Republicans aren't agreeing, and we've got some headaches up there. So as a whole, what do we believe as Republicans, and how far apart are we, or how close together are we, and where do we go in the future? You know, as I was telling Shane and Brian and Julie and Keith and others a second ago, this is the first time that I can remember in a long time that we've got from City Hall to the county, to the state, to Washington, D.C., that is favorable to the Republican philosophy. We've got a chance to actually transform this country back to what it should be, you know, what it can be. It is so much more than what it should be, it's what it can be. We've got so much that we could be doing. But as State Representative Sides and I were speaking, we've got to get the communication down first so we can cooperate there. You know, if we can speak on good channels and clear lines of communication without any interference. Hey, I still remember my COM 115 at Southwest Missouri State University. Don't want any interference in that communication process. You know, and then maybe we can get some stuff done. Because what a blessing we have, and what a catastrophe it could be if we blow the next 2 years. So, without any further ado, I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to let Julie, I'm going to let her step up and just introduce herself, and she wants to speak with you folks today.
I know everybody here anyway. How many of you live in Forsyth, besides Dave? I don't think anybody else than my husband, of course. He lives in my house with me. So, anyway, I wanted to announce to you guys that I have decided, you said we have Republican government all the way up. Well, not Forsyth. Guess who we have? We have Missy. Missy was the one who lost to Eric Burleson. We need good leadership. So I have filed to run for the mayor of the city of Forsyth. Cool. So if you know anybody in Forsyth, let them know that I'm running. Let them know. You guys know my values. It's all about God and country and family. And that's where it's at. And we just need to do that. And I am going to briefly touch on, there's the big Speaker of the House thing. And all I'm going to say is I went to see Justin Sparks yesterday. I was very impressed with what he said. Please get all the facts and information, because the Speaker of the House is a position that is very powerful. And we need to make sure we have the right person in there to do the right thing. So with that in mind, keep me in your prayers, keep our government in your prayers, and thank you very much. Gotta go see a movie.
Thank you very much, Julie. We appreciate that. And our treasurer is running late. Glad she's not the president, but as long as she's got the money back, that's what matters, right? The first string. Julie, thank you very much. We appreciate it. That's part of our, and Julie, by the way, is an official member of our Taney County Republicans here. And that's part of our mission, is to try to get Republicans to run for office and win office at all levels. It won't be on the ballots, folks. You won't see an R and a D.
No, not.
But as I told one of our city councilmen 4 or 5 years ago, it don't matter. Put it on your signs, put it on your advertisements. Let people know you are a Republican. If the other side doesn't, then we pretty well know what they are. You know? So that's one place the Democrats do get us at, is at local level, where they don't have to put that RD on there. Thank you, Julie, she's got a run. They've got some amazing tickets, they got a.
If you guys get a chance, we're gonna go see Homestead, so if you wanna know if it's any good, call me.
Thank you, Julie. And, we're gonna move on, but before we get into our discussion, I'm gonna let any, people in office speak first, that way they get their fair share, because I think whenever we get into these discussions, I'm looking forward to hopefully a very intellectual, eye-opening conversation. So, we'll start off here with Brian Sykes, representative of 155th. Go right ahead, Brian.
Yep, 156, that's all good.
Sorry about that. We'll just combine them.
I was bad at math too. Basically, short and sweet, I filed, I think, 15 bills, maybe a couple House Joint Resolutions. I've talked about everything I filed before. I just got a phone call from the Kansas City Star wanting to know about my no tax on tips legislation. And I was gonna do this way before President Trump thought of it, so I'm glad he's jumped on the bandwagon. But no tax on tips. I waited tables for 3 years while I was in college. It was very frustrating to use every tool I had to get a better tip and provide good service, and then the more I made, the more I had to give either to the state or the feds. We need more waiters and waitresses here, and if we can do something like no tax on tips, we'll get more people hired on for the restaurants. This one does well, but some of the smaller ones, even if they're national chains, they have sections blocked off because they can't get cooks and they can't get waitresses and so forth. This would give them more incentive to do that sort of activity, if that's what they want to do, and make halfway decent money doing it without Uncle Sam taking it. Because you've worked that table, you've made, anyway. Lots of other bills running, I talked about them before. I'm anxious to get up there. We get sworn in on January 8th. I've been in constant communication with leadership there. It's really interesting that in my third term, it's incredibly different than my first or second terms. And I'm sure I've got one more run. So if you're a Missouri realtor or a retired school teacher, don't even think about running against me. I've got these 2 years, and then I have one more. I say that everywhere I go. Then I have one more 2-year session, and I'll ride off into the sunset, like Reagan did with my cowboy hat. Any questions, comments, concerns about what's going on? There are some issues that we may talk to you, I may talk to you about individually after the meeting is over, that are going on at the state level that you may have seen on the internet. The other thing I tell everybody is get off the internet, okay? Rake your leaves, love your neighbor, help out your mother-in-law, do whatever you need to do. But people get so ginned up by what they see, and often what they're seeing is either not true or it's skewed to make you think a certain way. I think society, we'd be a lot less calm, we'd be more calm, we'd be more willful to serve others and so forth. If we built bridges instead of tearing everything apart, the sky is not falling, and stay off the internet for a week and you'll feel better.
I want to put a little bug in your ear since you're on no tax for tips. Have you thought, or is there a thought, we have a huge shortage on blue collar trades.
Sure.
And people coming in. And I'm not saying white tax. What I'm saying is if we have an individual that goes into a 2-year apprenticeship program, reduce tax.
Right. I'm all for reducing taxes virtually anywhere as long as we provide for our infrastructure needs. We need police and fire and roads and so forth. So we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but lowering taxes, it's much more difficult at a state level to target certain individuals or groups. 3 years I've put in to reduce or eliminate personal property tax for low-income seniors. I've had that heard in committee. It's never made it to the floor because many within my own party say, well, if we're going to lower it for a specific group or do a carve-out, such as a tax credit, then we should do it for everyone. And I nod my head and I say, okay, now let's do it for everyone. So it's hard to get something like that, a targeted tax passed. If you go into blue-collar trades, will give you a tax break. Well, what about the white-collar worker who's that eventual blue collar worker's boss, shouldn't he get, that's the line I get, shouldn't he get that tax break? And I say yes. No, we can't seem to get that done. So, yeah, we need more people to work, period. The work ethic has disappeared in the United States. The scamdemic didn't help very much because people got used to getting on the government dole that were not on the government dole prior. Not working was kind of a shameful thing. So even in the 40s and the 50s and whatever, if you had to dig a ditch to support your family, you dug a ditch. You did anything you could to stay off of the government dole. That's not the mindset. That needs to be changed. So, any other questions, comments, concerns?
On Amendment 3, I know there's nothing able to be done at this point, anything?
There is, in a sense. I had breakfast with incoming Speaker John Patterson at the farmhouse. I think it was 2 weeks ago. We talked about nipping away at the edges and defining terms. Amendment 3 did pass. It's now part of our Constitution. But terms such as fetal viability. What is fetal viability? Is that when the baby can come out of the womb and feed itself? You know, what is that? We need to define these terms. I'm running a heartbeat bill, which is going to be a House Joint Resolution as well, that could come on the ballot soon, that declares the infant in the womb, once they have a heartbeat, they can't be aborted. That, to me, could be, though I believe life begins at conception, that's what I believe, because that's when life begins, at conception, but to get something to pass, a heartbeat bill, that makes that a living person, living, viable. So what is fetal viability? We have to determine reproductive health care, because they're trying to lump in transgender surgeries for minors and the beginning of those without parental consent. Well, a person transitioning or supposedly becoming a Bruce Jenner cannot reproduce anymore. So what is reproductive health care? They can't be covered under reproductive health care. So we're gonna go after the terms of the legislation, because I think what people did when they voted for Amendment 3, in this area, of course, it failed miserably, they voted for rape, incest, and health and life of the mother. That's what they were thinking. They were not thinking abortion on demand at 9 months. They were not thinking that their little children could go in and get hormone blockers without parental consent. Minors doing that. So we need to define these terms on Amendment number 3. The Speaker is willing and he's supportive of the work that I'm doing to nip away at the edges while still, they voted for it. People voted for it. It can't be brought back for 2 years. But we can define the terms. If the house is burning down, there are 10 people in it, and you can save 9, and you can't save the 10th. You can't. That's what you do. You save 9. And I think that's what the heartbeat bill will do, and still allow for those who think rape, incest, and life of the mother to get what they thought they voted for. And I'm going to be told, well, you're not true conservative, you're not a this, you're not a that. No, I'm trying to save 9 people in a burning house. That's what I'm trying to do. Go ahead.
Well, I didn't raise my hand.
You had an intake of breath, so I thought you were about to speak. All right, I'm very sensitive. Don't tell my wife. All right, we're good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sides of the 156th District of the state of Missouri. Next, Shane, would you like to come up and say
I don't
anything?
have anything other than county level candidates will be sworn in on the 31st at 10 a.m. at the commission hearing. So if anybody would like to
Where?
come, throw tomatoes,
So that's December 31st, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
December 31st, what time?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. at what I would call the old courthouse, which has most of the county offices in it. On the bottom floor, there is a commissioner's meeting room. That's where it'll be. 10 a.m. All new county officers will be sworn in.
Pay your property taxes at the same time.
There you go.
And pay your property tax at the same time. My
They will
wife reminds
accept
me.
your money.
The tax freeze takes place in January, so I don't think you'll be able to freeze it on that day. But seniors will be able to freeze their taxes at current level beginning this January. I've seen the paperwork, very simple to fill out.
you guys get that?
Mhm.
And for the audience abroad, on the first, a tax freeze can be put in for seniors, a simple form. I think you can get that online at
Yes.
the county.
Really
You get it
simple.
online from the county website. You just have to fill it out. Once you've filled it out, there's a freeze, you know, until they figure out exactly the levels of it. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, that was it, honestly.
Is
Yeah.
I thought I saw a deadline to file that form, is that right?
I'm
It's
sure
in
there is.
January, no, I think you could, I don't know when you could not file it, but I know it starts in January.
Okay.
And the
There's
thing
gonna be
is,
a-
you have to do it annually.
Then there's
You'll
gonna be
say,
a
well,
certain period probably in the year that
Yeah.
you'll have to probably have it in by then,
Okay.
or
I'll-
it's gonna
I'll-
fall
I'll
under
check.
next year's taxes, you see what
Okay.
I'm saying?
And you have to refile every year, and people say, well, that's a hassle. No, they gotta prove you're alive. This is a tax credit for people over a certain age. You have to prove you're still alive to get the freeze.
How old do we have to be?
I think it's 60 now.
Oh,
I
cool.
Oh,
think,
get closer.
I could be wrong. Really close. Cause I can do it and I'm 63, so I'm pretty sure it's 60, but I couldn't.
Thank you very much for the insight.
Long time.
So as Shane mentioned, don't forget, all new officers for the county be sworn in December 31st, 10 a.m. in Taney County Commissioners Meeting Room, Conference Room. And so we'll go on, and so guys, what I wanted today is, I just kind of want a round table deal, and here in a second when I go over, I'm gonna turn the camera just on all of us. Let's just discuss Republican politics. As I mentioned earlier, we've got an opportunity of a lifetime. I've said it time and again, Brian knows it, Brian said it. Me and Brian may agree on 90% of most issues, but there's gonna still be 10% I don't agree with Brian. But does that mean that me and him have to be mortal enemies and not help each other up in Jefferson City if I was a representative or a senator?
Right.
No. So one good thing is, I was just handing some updated news. Originally, the thought was, you know, I've been watching the last 48 hours or so, all this going on at the national level, you know, where every level can make change, from city to county to state and then national. Wouldn't it be nice to see the national try to work together? You know, that kind of flows downhill for all of us. So that was the original thought. What's going on with this? You know, because we have a certain number of Republicans that want the debt limit, you know, worked out immediately. And then other ones that Mr. Trump had put out a much smaller bill than the original 1,500 page, which cut out all the Democrat pork. I think it's what we used to call it, pork. I don't know if that's still politically incorrect or correct, but anyway. And, you know, and they just couldn't come to an agreement. So it failed yesterday. They went into meetings this morning. I was just handing something that it does seem they worked something out. It's gonna be a short-term transitional type bill. It will address the disaster. I mean, what in the world, folks? We've got people still living in tents out in North Carolina. Tents.
With
You know
snow
what, it
on
gets
it.
cold. I thought one time in March I was gonna swim in the Atlantic Ocean. You don't wanna go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina and jump in the water in March during spring break. It's pretty nippy. You better go on down to Florida if you wanna do that kind of action. So it's cold out there, you know, not like here, but bad enough anyways, living in tents. So it does supply emergency disaster relief, and it will address the debt limit this next Congress in 2025. It has to be addressed. So it's just a short-term bill to get us through. We agreed enough as Republicans to do that, which is great. Out of all of this stuff here, and we may have a short meeting today, because this first thing was just, what is the media saying? And you know what's funny, when you Google news, you won't get Fox, not on the first 3 pages. You have to Google Fox News to get to something that might possibly give you a decent overlook. I just printed out some things of what's going on. And then this really intrigued me. By the way, I am a conservative. Shane, show them your page like this, the one from the Treasury Department.
This one?
Yeah. See how much blue ink that is? Then look at mine. It took me a second to realize, holy crap, I'm wasting a lot of blue ink, so I stopped printing, and I had to shrink my little icon for the Treasury Department to save some ink. Hey, that stuff's expensive nowadays, geez. Hey, Brian, that's what I want you to work on, get the price of ink down a little bit.
Creamer for my coffee too.
Oh, by the way, treasurer, we're gonna have to increase our debt limit ceiling. So, this is the Treasury Department. The first paragraph gives a definition of what this, the debt limit is. The total amount of money the United States government is authorized to borrow to meet its existing legal obligations, including Social Security and Medicare benefits, military salaries, interest on the national debt, tax refunds, and other payments. That's the definition. How much money can we borrow, basically, to pay our bills? Then it gives 3 paragraphs of what I call personal opinion from the United States Treasurer at the moment. Can't think of the name. Any national people, news hounds out there know who our U.S. Treasurer is at the moment?
Yellow, isn't it? She's still yellow.
Still
Yeah,
yelling?
it's still yelling.
Yeah.
Oh.
Then this is Yellen's basically personal opinion. I'll find, later read it, you'll find it interesting. It doesn't seem to coincide with a lot of ideas that I have, but anyway. So that's what's going on. And then last but not least on the handout is the 2024 budget. This is what it looks like. And those numbers, there's one cut off, which is non-defense discretionary, which is a pretty good blue chunk of the pie. So these are in billions of dollars. So if you're a politician and you're trying to hit a debt ceiling and we can't borrow anymore, our revenue seems to be maxed out right now. You know, look at this like your household budget. You got your revenue, you got your expenditures, then you got your cuts.
Just,
Where do you cut this pie?
well, you look at it, we're 11 days from the end of this year, and it still says proposed. It has that one word in it. They never passed this, they never voted on it.
Well, we haven't voted on
So-
a budget for how many years?
Exactly. We
So
do
what
this
is the
continually.
largest thing proportion wise on this chart?
Yeah.
And what politician wants to touch Social Security?
But Social Security's not an entitlement when you look at it. We've all paid it.
I understand,
Well, we
but
paid in $100 a month, and we're going to expect to get $1,700 a month.
so, exactly, and you think about that, so your $100 a month should have been making interest and then compounding and growing. You know, the money we put in, they should be using that in a growth sector somehow for that to grow and expand the fund. But we're still doing it out of their regular budget, covering it. So when we do that, what politician wants to cut this? I know we've got politicians that want that debt limit, so we can't go out of control, which is physically, that's responsible and financially responsible. But during the same term, do we have guts to cut this budget and cut it big time? I hope we do, because that's what Trump has assigned a couple of people to do, you know, on a private side. It's not actually did he make it a true government office now, or a commission? I think it's a true commission now. Right. Elon Musk and,
Ramaswamy.
thank you,
Okay.
Ramaswamy, yep. They're gonna be going around trying to cut stuff. So, yes, sir.
And of course, there's a good section of the public that don't get Social Security even though they paid it.
Correct.
Police officers, teachers,
Yep.
anybody gets a government pension, forget it. They told me when I retired, you'll get about $1,200 a month, or $1,400 a month, I'm sorry. I get 3,
300.
because I have a government.
When you serve.
They've got a bill up right now to change that after all these years,
Yeah.
but I doubt very seriously.
They said this
Yes,
morning it wouldn't even come up, not this year.
So basically, guys, you know, this is just open, don't have to be just about this handout. I know Kelly, he's biting at the bit right there.
The one thing that that I'm upset about
Right.
you've got the Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. People don't realize that when you walk across the southern border, you're automatically
Covered.
included in this. If we would cut off the illegals that are getting this money, it would make it a whole lot easier, and we wouldn't have the drain on the budget
Correct.
and on the treasury.
I think, now this is an approximation from some statistics I saw, about 13 million illegals in America right now. That's, and a large proportion of those now in the last several years not accounted for. We have no idea if we're sitting in this meeting or, you know, getting ready to blow up Table Rock Dam, or what they're doing, because a lot of them are from terrorist countries.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
have travel banned, you know, so I mean.
Not anymore.
Exactly, and you're right, that would, so that cuts a big, let's say all 11 million of them though, are getting the benefits, and we cut that 11 million people off of the benefit. We still got, what, probably
It's still not gonna make it down.
150,
Yeah, it's
175 million that are
But it would
gone.
help the viability.
It would extend it, that's
So
true.
basically what I'm saying here is if we're gonna get down and dirty, and we wanna be truly conservative, we're gonna have to look at this pie.
Yeah.
And like Brian said, we may have to save 9 and one might gotta go, or there's gonna be a whole little chop somewhere that makes up one, you know what I mean, as a whole. And that's it, I'm turning it over to you guys, go ahead, sir.
Well, the other thing I was just gonna mention, I was listening to, when the first, not the 167 page bill blew up, and they were interviewing Chip Roy and a couple other guys, you know, and getting this thing fixed, everybody's gotta be a little patient. This is like trying to turn an aircraft carrier around. You just don't do it. And I think we need to be very careful on what hill we choose to die on, you know? Well, so in principle, I agree with everything Roy said, but Ryan, you know this, it's, politics is the art of the possible.
Right.
They don't have the votes.
Right.
So let's get something done. And what aggravates me to no end with, and I don't know if it's like this in Jeff City, but at the federal level, for whatever you think of the Democrats, they march in lockstep.
Absolutely.
We don't. We continually shoot ourselves in the foot, and I just don't understand it. I you know, so.
I think that's in part why a lot of us are Republicans, we're a lot of independent thinkers, and we look at common sense. When you get independent thinkers, it's hard to get everybody to do stuff, you know, it really is. It's something I think we should work on as a party.
I agree, but still, again, at some point, you can't, you can stand on, like you say, you can stand on principle, and you'll be the guy in the house while it burns down.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just, I don't know, I think everything should be on the table. I like everything that they're doing, that Trump proposes that he's doing. I just think we need to be a little patient. I think that the Republicans don't need to hamstring Trump coming out of the gate. And that's what I fear is gonna happen. I don't know what this new deal looks
Well,
like.
fortunately, whatever was reported earlier, we'll hope that goes through, where it's just short term, because the one that Trump proposed, it whittled it down to what, 116 pages?
116 pages,
Yeah, you know, it was basically just a short term, let's get through till March.
It was,
It
well,
was, it was just a
they're
debt
saying
ceiling.
this morning, 3 weeks
Yeah,
is
it gets
what
us
they're
to
working
inauguration.
on now.
That's what they're.
And then one other thing on this, and us arguing stuff, is the Speaker of the House. You know, I was watching Fox Business this morning, and they were talking on there, if we try to replace the Speaker of the House right now, and there gets a big battle over that, if we don't have someone in place and everything in order,
It's gonna be a nightmare.
we're gonna certify a presidential election.
That's right.
You can't do that without a Speaker of the House.
That's right.
So it's just those things that, you know, I just hope that, I know at the local level, they work together good. I've watched Brian work with Brad and Travis, work with our local community leaders, work with commissioners. You know, that's what I wish could get to the national level.
A lot of what when you start reading and you realize, a lot of this is hype and hyperbole by the national media.
It is.
These guys are really working behind the scenes, is a lot of what I'm hearing. You know, and you look at 38 of them stood up yesterday and said, no, we are not voting for 1,500 pages of report. I applaud them, including Burleson. He's one of them, and he stood up and he said, no, I'm not.
He's
That
been on
forced them
Fox a
back to
lot
the
lately.
table to go from 1,500 pages down to 116.
Actually, he was the
He
one that
voted.
wouldn't vote on 116.
He voted against, he and
But he
37
started at the
others.
top
Yeah,
too, and
yeah, absolutely.
he keeps they keep bringing it down.
And that's where the debt ceiling comes in, this debt ceiling we're talking about. That's what Eric and many other very strong conservative, physical conservative representatives, 48 I believe,
38.
voted against the one that Trump wanted to be put in immediately because of the debt ceiling. It wasn't gonna be put into place until 2027. And then there's another thing where it might not be till 2029, it would be suspended or raised. So it's one of those things that the fiscal conservative, Eric, decided to vote against it. But then once again, you're voting against what your president asked you to do. So it's just one of these really tough situations. I'm damn sure wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now. Honestly, I really would.
I think
You know-
Because you've got tough decisions.
Part of the
to
problem
make.
you've got is the Republicans have backed themselves up to this corner, I don't know how many times,
Yeah.
and they say, next time, we're gonna handle this.
Right.
Next time rolls around,
Oh.
and we end up with a 1,500-page bill from Speaker Johnson.
That's what I faulted for. How in the world did you get conned into that deal?
Well, and you gotta ask though, was some of it intentional because he knew the 1,500 wouldn't go through? And is this part of the theatrics that goes on in DC?
Could be.
You
And
know?
theatrics is, you're definitely right about.
But it makes him
you know.
more,
Yes,
it does, I mean,
Makes
he
him
wants to
look
keep a
very-
speakership, people are like,
yes.
how could you ever
Well,
agree to
and
this?
the debt ceiling, and I know this is probably gonna sound like a nutty view, but what's it really mean at the end of the day? Because we've
Exactly.
never held the debt ceiling. Every time we start kissing it, guess what we do?
Raise it.
We vote to raise it. It's a number that someone picks to feel good for down the road. But if you're gonna keep bumping this thing up, is it even worth really throwing ourselves at it every time it comes around? Or do you do what Trump has said and you go, you know what, let's just remove it. Let's go to fiscal conservative spending. Let's not keep shooting ourselves in the foot with this arbitrary number that we're putting out there to kick the can down the road another $2-3 trillion, whatever later. And you're
Well-
talking to a guy here, I'm a staunch fiscal conservative before anything else, and I just see it as something that we trip ourselves up with a lot.
We're having a lot of problems now. I'm a newsaholic, I guess it is. You know, they kept talking about, what's come out recently is how much we have no president or vice president at this time. They don't even have cabinet meetings unless there's a teleprompter there telling Biden what to say. Well, now that that the Republicans have brought that up, the Democrats are bringing up who's running the country. Is it Vivek or is it the other guy?
Right.
And I've heard, you've seen what the Tesla has done in the wintertime. It doesn't. So this is the thing that we have done the other for so long. And we found out that Biden hasn't been around for 4 years. And because of that, we've had, who knows what's coming, who's been working in the White House. But we now have things on our own side, which is Elon and Vivek. And they've come up this morning that they're the ones running the government at this time.
And
Well,
that's
the
more like-
Republicans haven't even been sworn in yet.
Right. And that's more of what
This
Pete
is
was
the
talking
media.
about, that
Yeah.
is the hyper,
That's the media.
Yeah.
it's media, you know, right now.
But we've got a lot more media on the other side than we do on our
That's
side.
true. And you know what I'm very proud about? We're sitting here as Republicans, talking about the national debt and how to get that down and stuff. You know what the Democrats are talking about today? 4 years of cover-up on how incompetent the presidential election was.
Yeah.
So we're having a heck of a meeting compared to the opposition today. 4 years they covered up, but even before that, to get him elected.
Yep.
His acuity level is, you've seen him on TV.
Thank God
I
for the
watched him over in
26th.
Africa fall asleep
or
during a meeting
27th
with
of
4 or
June.
5 other world leaders, you know, I mean.
You know,
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, coming over, I listened to, who's the press secretary, KJ, whatever.
Yeah.
The press was sitting there asking her, said, well, what are they gonna do this? And, is Biden gonna come out and talk about this? And her main response for every question was, we have a bill. Johnson agreed to the bill, and the Republicans didn't want it to pass.
Shot it down.
So she kept, that's every question it seemed like that somebody from the press would ask her, she'd say, it's the Republicans, and it's the Republicans, and it's like,
And
You
that's,
don't get a good answer.
and I think that's one reason, guys, why we're in the position that we are right now with Republican leadership from top to bottom, is they haven't been able to give an answer
Yeah.
for 4 years. And you know what? You may just be, as like Brian was talking, and like I've done before, working in a restaurant. And I washed dishes at one time, then I was a head cook at one time, and then managed a little bit at a restaurant. And I am not dumb enough to think the things they tell me on TV. That's what America's sick of, being treated like idiots.
Yeah.
But we're not idiots.
I'm kept in the dark with beds and BS all the time.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I mean, we're tired of it. And that's why Trump was in power in the first place, in 2016 and now again. We're just sick of the BS, you know? Go ahead, Keith.
I wanted to look this up on debt ceiling. I was just curious.
Yeah.
We have raised it 90 times in the 20th century. The debt ceiling was was raised 74 times from March 1962 until May 2011, including 18 times under Reagan, 8 times under Clinton, and 7 times under George W. Bush. Congress has raised the debt ceiling 14 times from 2001 to 2016, and it has raised a total of 7 times during President Bush's 8-year term. And it was raised 11 times as of March 2015, during President Obama's 8 years in office. So, I mean, we've done nothing but use this as a moving target to try to control debt, but we don't do it.
And we've got many business-minded people in the room, either own businesses,
Yeah.
operated, managed in some way or sort. Guys, it's 36.19 trillion right now, and by the time I said that, add
It
4 or
went-
5
That's
billion
right.
to it,
It
the
went up.
debt. Do we realistically think we're ever gonna pay this off?
No.
No.
I mean, honestly, the only way we would do is there's a thing that gets you out of debt, and we just have to say, we're bankrupt. Anybody that we owe money to, we're not paying it.
The other thing is war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it adds to it, and you read those, and every one of those big increases, we were at war.
Yep.
And we kept pushing the ball down the road.
So, we've gotta protect ourselves. We've gotta protect the American principles of democracy across the country and across the world. But, I realistically don't think we'll ever get this paid. And so what this was, is I didn't think it was gonna be like, we're gonna come up with any answers today, but hopefully it'll make us think, and think about the future, and think about these next, especially 2 years at the national level, where we have the House, the Senate, most of the judges, and the President of the United States
Yeah.
office. I hope we get
The
something.
Democrats are trying to get 2 judges through right now
Yeah.
from California.
I find it, you look at this, and you look at DOGE, which is the new Department of Government Efficiency. Their goal isn't to kill our budget, it's to trim $2 trillion in stupid spending.
Yeah.
And some of the things they've identified is really stupid spending that any one of us would look at and go, why are we spending money to watch shrimp run on a treadmill? And you're talking about millions of dollars.
Yes.
And one big thing, too, it was eye-opening to me, how many government buildings we own,
That
we
are
had insurance
empty.
on, and upkeep on, and
7,000.
nothing's being done.
Almost
I
8,000
mean, there's
buildings.
nothing in them happening, folks, even paying probably security to go look at them.
Yep.
That's billions of dollars that
Well,
can be just.
There's so many of those buildings that are empty that we're leasing. We don't even own the buildings.
Yeah.
We're paying lease money for an
Well,
empty building.
There's an industry, it's called dark property management. We do it as a company. And what do? Well, retail goes and closes a building down, but they're still in the lease. They need someone to look at it periodically, right? Guess what we do?
That's
And
it.
they pay us.
That's it.
There's people looking at these government buildings the same way.
And we won't even get into selling pieces of wall off that we know is gonna
Right.
be built.
But
I was
you
just
know-
thinking when I was in trucking, I could just see myself not knowing any better and driving off for some guy in Arizona that's hired me to go, oh, go down here and get some metal for me. Here I have a piece of wall I'm
Well,
driving off with, I'll be on
I
camera.
think the thing that stopped that, and it's been stopped.
Was Trump.
No, it was Abbott. He
Yeah.
sent his people in there with a checkbook
Well,
and
they-
said,
They-
if you're
they
gonna
gave him-
sell it, we're gonna buy it.
They gave him like stupid money, the state treasurer.
Yeah.
$1 billion.
Texas. Yeah, And they're like, go buy it all, and we'll just donate it
They
right
tried
back.
to sneak around him, and they went to Arizona, and this
Yeah.
is
Yes.
crazy.
And
But
they
did get
finally
12
did
million.
stop
They
it.
bought $12 million, but he still make about $4 million.
Well, they've pulled it off market now. It's
Mhm.
not on
It's
market now.
all, but it was
We're gonna go
funny.
ahead, guys, and, cause, we're gonna have a little after time here together. We're gonna go ahead and shut down the meeting now. Yes, sir, Shannon, one
Just
more official
one
comment.
thing, just for clarification, the
Absolutely.
senior tax credit, the age is 62.
62.
Yep, and the application process is January 1 to June 30. And that's the time to add for calculation and billing. And also, if anybody wants to look at the application, you can find it on the collector's website.
Okay, now can we file
So,
in the collector's
So-
website, or do we have to do it in
There's a
person?
form there
there's a
that,
form online, too, and I don't know, just 100%, if you wanna call over there, Mona's crew is fantastic, and they'll be happy to.
That's
to
the
make sure
collector's
we do
office?
this. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you, Shane, for the update. So we're gonna close the meeting. I would like to say one thing about Elon Musk and President Trump. They have greatly benefited me, because I've been dressing like this for years. And so now I can wear my coat and a cap and be my normal hillbilly self, but look presidential. you know.
Where's your-
I just got my Trump cap
Where's
instead
your
of mud
little
cap.
boy on your shoulder?
Instead of mud cats, you know, that's the only thing. I wore the mud cats, so if anybody is against the South Carolina mud cats, I'm a big, I can't wear Royals, I can't wear Cardinals, I can't wear, I'm gonna be, you know, in the middle today, so I've got the South Carolina mud cats.
Why can't you wear those?
Say what?
Why can't you wear those?
So I didn't want it, you know, to seem like I was leaning one way or another. I try to be impartial when I'm leaving. So we're gonna go ahead and shut down, guys.
Okay.
Rhonda?